Paul Keating thinks we're all stupid. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, because I want to have a look at this article, which is discussing Paul Keating's recent appearance on 7:30, and frankly, how it seems that he thinks we're all stupid. You know, all of us dumb prawls, and we need a paternalistic authoritarian government to come and tell us what to do, to force us to save, because, you know, we can't do it ourselves. What do you reckon? So, former PM Paul Keating says government wants to kill superannuation. Well, think about it. How many of you have been forced to pay into super for your whole working life, when previous generations couldn't, or didn't have to? It was voluntary, at least for a time. Imagine how much easier it would have been for you to, if you've been struggling to get into a house, how much easier it would have been for you to get into a house if you weren't forced to put all that money into super. How much easier it would be for you to make ends meet in tough times if you weren't forced to put all that money into super, where you're eroded by fees, charges, and you've got limited control over it. I would argue, if our PM thinks we wouldn't have any savings, essentially we're too dumb, and we need a paternalistic government to force us to save, why don't we look at ways where individuals, where it's voluntary, or if you don't have, say, a certain level of functioning intelligence, maybe if your IQ is, at mental retardation, then you are forced to save. But if you can prove that you're above a certain level, maybe it's voluntary. Or, the governments don't like that type of thing. It's too discriminatory. What about if there was a financial literacy course that you had to do? Maybe a Cert 4 course. And then if you did that, you were allowed to have access to all of your money. And we the tax rules, we just changed them. So there wasn't a tax advantage into going into super as opposed to not to. What do you think? Do you reckon that'd work? It'd probably be a good way to force people to get financial literacy. It might actually be much more beneficial in the long term. Using this as a bait and switch to get people to actually learn something about saving, about money and investment, than forcing other parties to control it. I'm going to have a shot of coffee. What do you think about that idea, guys? Good morning, stein of coffee. So let's have a look what old Keating says. And remember, this is the recession Australia had to have, Keating. Former Australian Prime Minister Paul Keating has come out swinging against the government, accusing it of trying to rob Australians. Former Prime Minister has accused the Morrison government of trying to rob Australians of their nest egg after it was revealed a guaranteed increase to superannuation may be delayed. Oh, darn. I mean, here's the thing. I know people are concerned that workers are going to lose out on their savings. Well, really the only people that are going to lose out are those at the bare base wage. Because if they're at the award, this is an increase to the award, essentially. It's an increase to the burden of employing someone. Anyone above the award package, you can just adjust the package to say, okay, your take-home pay is reduced because more now is going into superannuation. I bet you some businesses will look at doing that, or at least over the next few years, it'll absorb some of the pay rises. The biggest concern I have with this, it's got nothing to do with wages, it's got nothing to do with savings. It erodes our competitiveness on a global scale for jobs that can be easily offshored. It makes it more of a burden to employ Australians. That's the reality we're facing. Sure, Keating probably has never encountered it in his life, never encountered it in his business. I'm not surprised. Wasn't he a pig farmer? But the thing is, why would people hire someone in Australia when you can get someone online to do the same job overseas at a fraction of the price? And that includes all of their payments and charges and extra fees. This is just going to put another dent in that competition, the environment we're now in. It's not the same world as the 80s, Keating. The scheduled increase in superannuation, due to increase from 9.5% to 12% by 2025, was taken to the last election, but now could be delayed as a result of the pandemic. Treasurer Frydenberg said on Friday a 600-page report into the validity of the retirement scheme made clear there was a trade-off between employers paying for higher super, which means lower income workers in particular are less likely to secure wage increases. We will make a decision about that in light of current circumstances before the scheduled increase takes place. I mean, this is the thing. Keating's completely biased to it. So, really, why are we listening to his opinion? Maybe young people should have a say. Maybe those of us that have been forced to pay into this bloody scheme our whole working life should have a say. How many people took the 20 grand that they could? And what do you think that, we saw articles in the news about people getting boob jobs and gambling it away. Sure, there's some dumb idiots out there. That's never going to change. That's always going to exist. But how many of them used it to get out of debt or to buy a long-term asset? They just took the opportunity and they didn't care. Because they thought, well, think about it, stuff it. What's the government going to do for you? Deflate away your money. So, speaking on ABC 7:30 on Monday night, Mr. Keating, who committed to compulsive superannuation increases as Prime Minister, said the government's intention showed it planned to squash the forced retirement savings scheme. Yeah, it is a forced retirement savings scheme. I mean, here's the thing. You've got to think about it. There's a situation where you can get a tax advantage by locking your money away for years in super and having other parties control it. But what if there's an emergency? Then you have to go lick the boot to the tax department to get access to your money. You've got to go beg and grovel for your own money. Then you're taxed to the hilt to take it out. That's why, in some regards, I'd prefer to build a non-super savings buffer, an investment buffer for in case of an emergency. And then that income stream as well from that can help you in your daily life. So, we have two great assets left in Australia, iron ore and superannuation, and the government wants to kill superannuation, he said. We've got a country with no wage growth. It has no population growth, no Chinese tourism, no Chinese kids, and now the Chinese government has got the trade bans on us. Removing compulsory conditions of superannuation and allowing Australians to invest through their own means would mean the population would have no savings, Mr. Keating warned. There you go. So we're too stupid to do it. You can't voluntarily, according to Keating, you can't voluntarily have the plebs managing their own money. Okay? Honestly, maybe we should just make it mandatory for Labour voters. There you go. Let's just go along ideological lines. If you vote Labour, you're forced to contribute to super. How about that? Let's do that. Let's see how it all goes then. That's what the report said, he told 7:30. Middle-income earners would not save enough for retirement. How many people? I think that wasn't already revealed that people save in super. And the first thing they do is they pay off their house when they get it. So it's kind of pointless. It really is. Because think how much earlier people could get into property without being forced to stash 10% away into super. Think of the inflationary effects of property. Oh, we don't really measure it, do we? So, this is not just Australians, this is true around the world. Unless you're compulsorily required to do it, they don't do it. Reserve Bank Governor Philip Lowe has warned an increase in superannuation would weaken an already stagnant wage growth, a claim Mr. Keating rubbished as nonsense. Well, I think if Philip knows anything from the Reserve Bank, it's about stagnant wage growth now. They've failed to predict any increase. Does Keating realize you can get someone in the Philippines to work for a fraction of the price that someone here in Australia as an architect, or as a drafty, or as an engineer? I was talking to a gentleman yesterday. He was interested in point cloud scanning tech. Actually, one of the viewers recommended me to him. So it's a local Brisbane guy. Wants to do some scanning. Thank you very much for passing my name on, by the way. But, he gets his drafting done overseas. You can't blame him. It's cheaper, easier, more convenient. The only reason I don't do it is because I don't want to have to deal with it, with the burden. We've tried. We've hired lots of Australians. We've had people working for us for years. I've gotten to the point now where it's easier for me, more profitable for me to just run a tighter ship with just Rachel and I, and bringing in contractors as we need it, which often I will just work through the night to save money, but that's more to do with my work-life balance. I think I told staff work-life balance is a fantasy. It's contrived of the lazy. You know, you get work, periods of your life of work, and then there's the balance, the other bit there. You just gotta, manage it. Anyway, that's the point. We're not going to be as competitive. The arguments run, if you get an increase in super, you don't have it in wages. If you don't have it in super, you have it in wages, he said. No, see, okay, this is the thing. They're missing the point. Sure, okay, that's one argument. I'm saying all of this is making us reducing our competitiveness on a global world. This is internet now. Seriously, you're competing. Everyone in a service job is competing with people overseas. That's how it is. And you can have people that's terrible, put tariffs in, put this in, yada, yada, yada. But that's the reality, guys. Okay, and that's the world you have to face in. And a lot of Australians are going to take a hit to their quality of life, and that's just how it is. I mean, honestly, I would say it just means you have to be a little bit more sensible with your money and how you can earn it, and find other opportunities and run a more efficient machine. It's not the end of the world. Particularly in architecture, the days of the fee scale, getting 10% of the construction fee for a project, like they did back in the day, yeah, that doesn't exist anymore. It very rarely would there be firms that will be getting that amount. I mean, it sounds great. Yeah, don't get me wrong, but, that's it, guys. So we've had no increase in superannuation since 2013, yet there was no wage increase since 2013. Yeah, because on a GDP per capita basis, our growth has been going down. We've still been growing, but on a per capita basis, it's been below trend actually since 2008. Because everything's getting pumped into property. Because people are not able. Well, how many people have to save frantically for years just to get into property? And how much reduced spending does that circulate in the economy? And all the while, they're also fighting 10% of their money being slashed into super funds, which they have no control, or either union-controlled or bank-controlled. There's no real difference. The argument in the long run is if you consume something and don't save, not consume, of course, you will have less consumption over 30 to 40 years, but over a short period in time is just misreading of the current conditions. The Reserve Bank, I call them, always gets things wrong. Okay, well, so what do you all think, everyone? Do you think Paulie's right? Are we dumb plebs too stupid to save? Or what do you think of my suggestions? Should we make it only mandatory for people of lower intelligence levels? Then Paul will be happy. Or what about just mandatory for all Labour voters so they can experience what they're voting for? Or maybe, we say it's completely optional, remove the tax advantages, but require people do a course in financial literacy. And I'm not talking a little dodgy one. Get them to do a Cert 4. Cert 4 is decent. There'd be enough in there for, enough subjects, enough hours for people to get a legitimate understanding. What do you reckon? Honestly, I think getting people educated in financial literacy and using this as a way to do it might actually have a better long-term impact for our country than any forced superannuation, than any government handouts or stimulus. What do you reckon? Is there, here's a question for you. Let me know, is there a measure of a nation's financial literacy out there? I'm going to have a look for it after I record this video. If it exists, let me know in the comments. Is there like an index? Maybe the Dave Ramsey index. That'd be funny. We'll have to see. So there we have it, everyone. Good old Keating surprisingly has the back of the super funds. Yeah, well, us dumb plebs are too stupid to save without being compelled to do it. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions, because, people never saved. People never saved for their retirement before government forced people to do. This is a lot of people think stuff didn't happen without government. Well, yeah, it did. It did, okay? People survived a long time without massive government and intervention in your lives. That's just, how it is. People are pretty resilient. When that crutch is removed from you, you can generally deal with it, okay? Maybe you'll bitch and cry and moan a little bit, but you deal with it. That's life. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. What do you think? Which of my 3 suggestions do you think is the best? As always, Thanks for watching. If you're a fan of the channel and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. See you next time.